Yo, what's up, Broncos country? How's it going tonight, guys? This is Eddie with Colorado Sports Connection, and Mohammed's back in town tonight. We finally got our guy back. So tonight we wanted to go over training camp and all the storylines, everything that's been going on. Over the first 4 days of training camp. The team is off today, but we're going to go through that and got a couple other things we want to touch on tonight. So first of all, Mohammed, welcome back, man. It's good to have you back on the stream.
Oh, thanks, Eddie, man. I missed everybody. I missed talking about the Broncos and stuff. But hey, I'm back. Let's do
All
it.
right, let's go. So, first thing is, okay, training camp started on Wednesday, and Wednesday and Thursday were pretty much acclimation periods. Just kind of getting the guys back into the building, getting used to everything again, and then Friday was the first day where fans were welcome back to the training camp facility, and I was there on Friday, and we're going to go through all the players and all the position battles, but the first one I wanted to talk about was Greg Dulcich, man. He's been out there all 4 days, missing like OTAs, mandatory minicamp because he was still trying to work through that injury. I think it was a foot injury, if I remember correctly. But man, he was out there the last 4 days and he was just going off. Like he's been all over the place. He's been zipping and zooming all over the place. He's just man, he's been looking sharp out there. Have you seen pictures of him, Muhammad? What do you think?
Yeah, I've seen a few highlights and I've read some stuff too. It's incredible. I mean, I always believed in him. Just the injury bug kept getting him and stuff. But from what I heard, yeah, I mean, guess he's building that chemistry with Bo Nix. It's good to hear early on. Hopefully, it just continues to the season.
Yeah, that's the one thing I could say for sure, man. He's really been him and Bo Nix have been really building chemistry together, and it's been nice to see. Um, but I'm just happy out there. Like the first couple of days, he was out there participating in drills, and it doesn't look like he's been injured at all. Like I don't know if you've seen like the earlier videos. Like there was a couple from the first couple of days. He was going in and out of cuts. He was running quick. Like he looked like he's like fresh. Like he just got a new pair of legs and feet. Like he was just going off out there, man. It was nice to see. And going into the tight end position, talking about Greg Dulcich, even Lucas Kroll, he's been having a couple of good days. Um, we heard Sean Payton say earlier in the offseason, pretty soon everybody's gonna know who 85 is.
Mm.
But I don't know, man. Like if Greg Dulcich keeps building on what he's been doing these last 4 days and he stays healthy, I'm still in the camp that he's going to be the tight end one, but and Adam Troutman I think would be tight end two, and Lucas Kroll would probably be tight end three. But out of all the tight ends, Dulcich, Troutman, Kroll, who are you most excited to see?
Broly Kroll, just
Kroll?
because of what I heard from like coach speaking highly of him, and now you're telling me, and from what I've seen, that Dosage is doing pretty well too. Hey, it's a good problem to have, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, I'm happy to have him back, man, and it's just excited to finally see him out there. Like, I mean, I think he played a few games. I think he played like the first two games, or he was in the first two games last year at the beginning of the season, Dulcich. Then he got hurt, and then he was out pretty much all season. Like, we haven't really had, like, he's only been on the team for this going into his third year, and he hasn't really had a whole lot of playing time. The flashes that we saw in 2022 were nice, and I'm kind of hoping he can build off that 2022 season and continue to grow and develop into that tight end one that we really, really need. So, but moving on to the next position, I'm going to go through the offensive line just real quick. Bulls. I don't know if you've seen. There was a video of him out there. They were talking about contracts. Since Cortland Sutton just got his contract, the Belly just got paid like last week. But Bulls was asked during the press conference the other day, you know, what's your contract situation? And he's just pretty much like, I don't care about the contract right now. I'm focused on playing this year. And he's like, I hope the front office knows I want to be in Denver for the remainder of my career. What do you hope the Broncos do with Garrett Bowles at the end of this year?
Eddie, like it's a very tricky situation because I don't know, like with him, I guess the past couple of seasons been more consistent than usual, but the past just keep like haunting me about him, like the holding calls and stuff. I always feel like that's gonna come back, because sometimes he struggles. So I
Yeah.
don't really know, Eddie. Like, if we don't sign him, like, are we like going to the like, are we trying to draft a new one, or are we trying to sign someone else? I don't know. I don't know what the Broncos gonna do, but I guess it's how he plays this year, would determine what they do with him.
Yeah, I fully agree. Like, if he hasn't, like, I'm pretty sure he had a good year in 2022, or no, or 2022. I believe he was injured the
Mm,
majority of the year. 20 or last year, he actually had a good season. He was one of the top tackles in the NFL. If he can build on that and stay on that trajectory and just stay as one of the best tackles in the NFL, like, they should pay him. Like, he's the left tackle. You got to protect Bo Nix's, blind side by all costs. I mean, you got Powers over there, and I just, if Bowles has another good year this year, like, I'm not saying he has to be the best tackle in the NFL, but if he's rated pretty high and he's pretty solid, you don't hear his name called this year, or he hopefully doesn't get injured. Knock on wood. I think they should pay him and keep him around for another couple of years, because most tackles, they usually retire in like their mid to early, mid to late 30s is usually whenever tackles retire. And I think Garrett Bowles going into the season is either 32 or 33. So if he has another good year, I say sign him to like a 2-year deal. Let him play here until he's like 35, 34, maybe 36, and keep Bo Nix's blind side protected. And honestly, he might even take a pay cut for the
yeah.
simple fact that, um, he was talking about it the other day at the podium, saying, how he was born here, he was raised here, his family was raised here, and he just doesn't want to leave. So maybe he'll take a pay cut to stay here and, keep playing for the Broncos. There wasn't really much on Ben Powers, Mike McGlinchey, those guys are here for a while. They both signed big contracts last offseason. But the competition at center, Mustaford's been competing, but it seems like also that Luke Wattenberg's been getting a lot more reps at center. With Alex Forsyth, I told you earlier today, he's been getting a lot more reps at guard. I guess is the backup role. Um, what do you think about the center position competition, and who do you want to win it, Mustaford or Luke Wattenberg?
Um, like I said earlier, I was kind of surprised. I thought Forsyth would be the leader as far as being the center, but I'm kind of confused. I guess maybe Mustaford probably be the one they go with, since they're not going with Forsyth. Really hard to tell. I haven't really seen much, of like live reps or anything like that. But like I said, I thought it would be Forsyth, but maybe it's gonna be Mustard. I guess only time will tell.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, whenever I was out there Friday, yeah, like I said, Luke Wattenberg was taking the majority of the first team reps at center, and he actually looked pretty solid.
Okay.
But it's just it takes a while. You know, hopefully this competition doesn't last too long. Like, I hate doing competitions all across the board, only because I think whenever you finally do pick the starter, it slows down their development, it slows down their timing, it slows down everything for them to get acclimated to being in the starting role. So hopefully a lot of these competitions don't last very long. The next thing I want to talk about, it's not really a competition, but Quinn Miners got paid. I believe it was 4 years, 85 million. I believe
Yeah.
it was. I think
Around there.
like 45 million of it was guaranteed. What were your thoughts when you first heard that?
Oh, Eddie, I was super excited. I love the belly. I mean, was I was kind of surprised. I thought they really go into the season. Didn't think it was gonna happen like now, like during the off season. I thought it would happen, sometime during the season. But hey, good. I'm glad. We don't have to question it or think about what they're gonna do with him. I'm glad we got him locked in. I love him. I love his work ethics. I love everything about him. How I feel about the belly. So yes, man, good, good for him. Good for the Broncos.
Yeah, and whenever I was out there on Friday, man, he had that belly on full display, man. He had that long hair just flowing in the wind out there, just running people over. Like, I mean, granted it was practice, but man, he looks really good in person. Like, I will say that. Like, and I think he's happy now that he's got his money. You know, he's one of honestly, in my opinion, he's probably the best, or he's one of the best, if not the best guard in the league. You know,
Right.
like kind of how what was his name? Quentin Nelson was a few years back for the Colts. That's Quinn Miners for us now. He's one of the top guards, if not the top guard in the NFL, in my opinion. Um, so moving on to the next position, running backs. We kind of talked about this before we went live. Like, I was out there Friday. McLaughlin looked good. Williams looked really good. Estimate looked good. P. Ryan, I didn't really see a whole lot of. I mean, he was in there. I seen him, but you didn't really see so much flashy stuff from him. I mean, he's a good pass catching back, but you know, like I said, freaking Estimate, man, he looks like a little bowling ball. He's short, but man, is he jacked. He is huge. Um, Going through the running back battle, like I think personally they're going to carry three. I don't think they're going to carry any more than that, since they're probably going to wind up carrying the fullback Michael Burton, since they brought him back anyway. Who are the three running backs? Even with Blake Watson, like Blake Watson was out with an injury. I think he'll be the practice squad, maybe third stringer, depending on what they do. But who do you think is going to win the running back competition? Who do you think the three running backs are they're going to carry?
I see Estime for sure, Javante, Broly Jaleel, or Blake Watson, depending. P Ryan, I think he's gone. I don't see them keeping him. That'll just be crazy. Even though he's pretty decent, some team is going to get a good running back. But I still think that as we go through the season, I see Estime actually beating Javante, being the lead running back, if so. But like I said before, I like that combination between Javante and Estime. Just pounding the defense. So
No, I get that. And the reason why I somewhat agree with you, I think the three that they're going to keep is Williams, Estimate, and McLaughlin. Because P. Ryan, I'm pretty sure they can, cut him or even trade him and save a few million. And you could probably, honestly, with how good, P. Ryan played last year, you could probably trade him and maybe get a 5th or 6th round pick. I know that's crazy, but, assets are assets. With George Payton and Sean Payton, man, like they're really good at finding talent late in the draft. So any extra picks, even if it's a 6th or 5th rounder, would be really good. McLaughlin, he's younger, he's cheaper, he's a lot faster, and he could be your scat back. He could be the guy that you can leak out of the backfield and he can catch him in. Whenever he gets a full head of steam, dude, he's fast. Like he's gone. Good luck catching him. So I think he'll probably be like the third string back, like third down back, where they need someone out there, that can catch the ball out of the backfield if they need them to. But Javante and Estimate, I agree, they're going to be the 1-2 punch. Like they're going to be the ones you bring on first and second down to pick up the tough yards, pick up like 6-7 yards to get you into like a second or a third and like 2 or second and 2, something like that. And especially if you got them two together, like during the winter here in Denver when it gets cold, no one's going to want to tackle those two. You put one in, he picks you up like 5 yards, or you bring him in for a few, snaps and he picks you up a couple of first downs or whatever. And then, you kind of give him a rush and you bring in Estime and the defense is like, and he's fresh. Estimate's fresh, man. He's going to run over everybody, So that's who I think is going to be the three is Williams, Estimate, and McLaughlin. Blake Watson, I think they're going to keep on the practice squad. And I know, the Broncos, people were talking about the 53-man roster, which we'll get into here in a little bit, cuts and everything. I think P. Ryan's going to be the big one. Like maybe they cut him, but honestly, with how well he played and, teams, need running backs. I know they're like a dime a dozen. Like you can find a good running back in free agency, but someone's going to want, P. Ryan. Like he's a good back. And that's like you said earlier, it's a good problem to have good running, players at all positions or at any position to where, like, okay, I have to cut this guy. I don't want to because he's bad. It's just I have to because I have to shave down the roster and you can maybe get a pick out of him. So I'm excited to see that. Maybe we can get a pick out of P. Ryan. I know a lot of people are talking, they're going to carry 4 running backs. I don't think they will. Like maybe if they weren't going to keep a fullback around, like and Michael Burton, I could agree. Yeah, they probably would carry 4 backs. But the fact that they're going to keep a fullback in there, I don't. They're not going to have enough room to carry 4 backs. So moving on to the next position, wide receiver. Now this one to me is a big freaking position. Going into it, first thing I want to say, Courtland Sutton. I want to get your take on this. Courtland Sutton last week, got his pay bump that he wanted. Reason why he held out of voluntary OTAs and all this during the offseason. I think he got a pay bump of I think it was like 1.7 million, like in incentives. What was your initial reaction to that?
You know what? Like, I'm glad they did it. I know early on when this was going on, we were wondering what the Broncos were going to do and stuff. Um, I don't know why they waited this long, to be honest with you. I wanted that chemistry between him and Bo Nix to happen, sooner. But hey, he's got his money. I don't think it's what he wanted. He wanted some guarantees, but with Courtland, he wants that big contract. Well, you got your incentive. Show us what you got this year, because the Broncos have a lot of options. Honestly, like with Courtland, they can move on after this season. He's a good wide receiver, but the money he's asking for, he needs to prove it. So we shall see what happens this year.
Well, that's the thing too. Based on what I've seen, he's under contract for this year in 2025.
Okay.
Like, I wanted the Broncos to bring him back for this year just for the something. I love Courtland Sutton. Don't get me wrong; he's one of my favorite. He's one of the top players. He's one of my favorites. But it's like you really needed him. You needed a true number one this year to help Bo Nix develop into that quarterback of the future for you. And you remember me saying earlier in the offseason, like, yeah, bring Sutton back this year. I mean, if you can work something out with him, great. If not, then you really, really need to at least bring him back this year. And if you don't want to give him that big contract or whatever next year, then just, trade him or let him walk in free agency. But he's under contract. Like if they don't want to, if we have the same issue next year with Courtland Sutton, to where he's holding out of everything because he wants more guaranteed money, which the Broncos will have next year. But they're just like, it's time for us to move on. We got enough depth at wide receiver. We're going to go ahead and trade you Sutton and let you go somewhere where you can get that big contract because we want to move in a different direction. Because like Sean Payton was saying, they want to stay young. They want to get younger at positions, and with Timmy P in there, who's like 31, I think. Josh Reynolds, I think he's like 28, 29-ish. He's right there about the same age as Courtland Sutton, I believe. I could totally see that happening, but maybe Sutton's like, hey, I'm going to play these next 2 years in Denver and then, I'll go elsewhere. But we shall see with that. The next receiver, Tim Patrick, he was out there Friday looking pretty good. Like that knee does not, or his Achilles does not look like it's bothering him. He was in and out of cuts, especially, and yesterday too. He was out there just running drills like crazy. He was catching everything. Josh Reynolds looked pretty good. Marvin Mims, they had, doing punt returns again, just like last year in practice, and he looked good out there in punt returns. Troy Franklin, man, he had a rough start to training camp. Like, he was dropping passes. I mean, he was getting open, but he was just dropping passes, wasn't on the same page. Like, Bo Nix threw 2 deep shots the first 2 days of camp, and Bo Nix just overthrew him. But what were your thoughts on all the other receivers? Have you seen any videos or read anything on them, Mohammed? And what do you think about the rest of the receivers?
Honestly, like the one I was surprised with is Troy Franklin. Because I'm hearing all these things about him dropping passes, and I'm like, dude, the main reason why they got you is because you have that chemistry with Bo Nix. So hey, he's still a rookie, I guess. It's probably gonna develop at some point. No, just with me, it's mainly Tim Patrick. I hope he stays healthy. All these, like, I know he's a solid receiver, just that injury bug keeps getting him and stuff. So from what I'm seeing now, hopefully him, Dulcich, all of them just stay healthy, and the Broncos should be, good. I'm feeling confident about the wide receiver room. I'm not really concerned. Like I said, that just Tim Patrick stays healthy, and we should be fine.
To touch on that, last thing on the receivers. Who do you like? I think the Broncos personally are probably going to carry 6 wide receivers this year. They got so much depth at that position that I think they're going to carry 6. You can never have too many receivers. But with that said, who do you think, which wide receivers do you think the Broncos are going to carry this year? Which ones do you think they're going to keep and which ones do you think they're going to cut?
So Cortland's for sure is staying. Troy Franklin, Reynolds. Where are they cutting?
Marvin Mims.
Mims for sure should be coming back. They're keeping him. And then
And you said Josh Reynolds. What? Tim Patrick.
Tim Patrick.
That's 5. And then I think the last one they can't I agree with your list. Sutton, Mims, Franklin, Josh Reynolds, Tim Patrick. And I think the last one they probably carry would be Lil Jordan Humphrey. Only because he's familiar with the system.
Like I said, Eddie, it's a good problem to have, man. I mean, they're solid. They just stay healthy.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely. Those receivers right there. I mean, you got 3 big body wide receivers like Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, and Josh Reynolds. To me, they're all the same type of player. They're big, 50-50, big body guys that can body people out. They get the ball. And then Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims are basically the same player. They are the, fast little speed demons, little playmakers you can have to, go out there and, blow past the defense. And Lil Jordan Humphrey, I think he's just he's a solid, reliable, receiver that you could have. Like you could rotate in, or he could start if one of the, top guys gets injured, and like I said, he knows Sean Payton's system. So I'm all excited for that. Those are the 6 I think they're going to keep. I think Brandon Johnson maybe goes on the practice squad, Jalen Virgil, of course. And Michael Bandy, actually, he's been having, like yesterday and Friday, Michael Bandy was having some days, man. He was out there catching everything. Like, he could be a sleeper to make this roster too. I mean, he didn't make it last year, but he looked good. Like the day I was out there, man, he was catching all kinds of passes from Bo Nix, just like Dulcich was. But I don't know. I think. Oh, go ahead.
That, Michael, Ben, I keep hearing all this good things about him and stuff. I mean, what are they gonna do? They have all these solid players. It's gonna be really hard to kind of figure out who they're going to cut and who they're going to keep,
Well, I don't think Jalen Virgil, he could probably put him on waivers. He'll probably clear him and make the practice squad. Mm-hmm. Brandon Johnson, I think last year he had 19 catches and he had 4 touchdowns on there. I think he only had 300 yards, but I don't think he's going to clear waivers this year. I think Brandon Johnson, if we try to put him through waivers and put him on the practice squad, he's going to get picked up. Yeah. Same for Michael Bandy. He didn't play in the regular season. He was on the practice squad. But, with him out there balling, dude, I don't think he'll clear waivers either going to the practice squad. He might get picked up by a team that's, needs a receiver. It's crazy, man. Like you said, it's a good problem to have. But, man, there's a lot of good players on this team that, players that we like. Not even just players that are going to be good, but just guys that are solid that we like that are, like hometown favorites to the Broncos that are probably not going to be on this roster by the start of the season. They'll probably be on someone else's roster. And I don't know if you heard this, Muhammad. I don't know if you looked this up, but yesterday Sean Payton said that today, even though all the players are off, today's a rest day for the players. But Sean Payton said that him and all the coaches and everybody's going to get together today and discuss the quarterback room today. And then also yesterday, Sean Payton said there might be a change in the quarterback rotation or in the quarterback room. So what could that mean? I don't think it's anything to do with okay, we're going to go ahead and name the starter this early. I don't think that's what it is. Personally, and this is going to be diving into our next topic, the quarterbacks, which is that's what everybody wants to hear about, is that if a lot of Bronco fans that watch this channel and watch this page know Zach Wilson has not looked good. OTAs, mandatory minicamp, the first 4 days of training camp, Zach Wilson has been clearly the number 3. He has not looked good. That's not to say he hasn't had a couple of decent passes. We talked about this earlier. I told you about the one pass he had. I think it was yesterday. It was, he got out of the pocket and he sidearmed it and flinged it 28 yards downfield for a touchdown. But then, like the play before that, and the play after that, he took sacks. So Zach Wilson is clearly number 3. Jarrett Stidham and Bo Nix, like I said, we talked about this earlier too, Muhammad. Zach and Bo, or yeah, I'm not Zach, not Zach. Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham, they were about even in OTAs and mandatory minicamp. They were both about right here. Over the last couple of days, Friday and Saturday of training camp. Now a lot of people are going to disagree with this. I know they're going to say they're still even. Some are going to say Jarrett Stidham might have a little bit of an edge, but some Bronco fans, including myself, and I'm not trying to be a Bo Nix homer here because I'm really not, but just based on what I've seen, based on what I hear, Bo Nix is starting to creep his way. He's starting to separate himself from Jarrett Stidham. He's already separated himself from Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson doesn't stand a chance, but he's starting to separate himself, in my opinion, from Jarrett Stidham. What's your take?
Yeah, for with Zach Wilson, to me it's very disappointing. I always thought that him coming to Denver, being with Sean Payton would help him, but it doesn't look like it's helping him at all. The damage has been done to him, so I would not be surprised if what Sean Payton is talking about is maybe cutting him. Maybe it's too early, but I don't see the Broncos carrying him like carrying 3 quarterbacks, especially him. They can just bring anybody they want. If God forbid something happens and they have an injury and then they need to bring a 3rd quarterback. But I mean, that's what I expected with Bo Nix. I knew that Stidham is going to have the edge because he has, like a whole year under his belt. But I knew at some point Bo Nix is going to start, separating himself. Didn't think it was going to happen this fast. But, hey, I mean, it's good that we're hearing all these things about him, about all the improvements that he's making and learning learning the playbook and all that. So, yeah, I mean, hey, I don't see any reason why he's not the starter week 1. Now, Sean Payton going to tell us that? No. It's probably going to wait, but hey.
No, Zach Wilson, Sean Payton did kind of touch on it on Friday. I believe it was after practice. He said it's possible they carry 3 quarterbacks, but I think he's just saying that honestly, just to make people feel like, okay, Zach Wilson's kind of still in this. He does, like, you said it before, Muhammad. He doesn't want to show his hand. Even if you say, okay, yeah, Zach's clearly the number 3. The competition's between Nix and Stidham. He doesn't want to narrow it down this early. I don't think. So, yeah, of course, I could see Sean Payton saying, yeah, we could possibly carry 3 quarterbacks. I don't think that's the case. They didn't carry 3 last year. Most teams don't even carry 3 anymore. They don't. I mean, there might be a few teams in the NFL that carry 3 quarterbacks, on the active roster, but the majority of teams don't. But with that said, yesterday, and this is the thing, like the reason why I say, Bo Nix is separating himself from Stidham is because Stidham, to me, like he had a nice, 15-yard pass for a touchdown yesterday. We kind of talked about this earlier. Bo Nix is, granted, a lot of his, down the field passes haven't really been caught yet. But the thing for me is that Stidham is like Teddy Bridgewater. He's going to take the safe, easy, short passes, protect the ball, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. But every now and then, the quarterback might have to push the ball, more than 10, 15 yards down the field, and Stidham, I don't think, like, I'm not saying he's not capable. I just don't think he's going to. He wants to be safe. He wants to protect the football, throw it 4 yards short of the first down, and then hopefully your receiver or tight end or running back can maybe turn upfield and pick up the first down. Bo Nix was actually pushing the ball. Granted, like I said, a lot of those passes, or all the passes deep down the field, weren't caught. But I think that's more of a timing issue. As training camp goes on, preseason goes on, that timing stuff will get worked out. Bo Nix will start, getting timing with his receivers and hitting those guys on them deep passes. But also yesterday, like I said, Zach Wilson had a touchdown. Jarrett Stidham had a touchdown. But Bo Nix, yes, he had an interception. He had one bad throw, and it was bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was a bad throw. He underthrew it. Levi Wallace jumped in front of it and picked it off. Greg Dulcich, though, did have a couple of steps on Levi Wallace. Granted, there was a safety over the top, but Dulcich, like, he had a couple of steps. Like, Bo just needs to learn to fit that ball in there, which I think will be fine over time. Like, that was a timing issue. I believe as training camp goes on, that'll get worked out. Sean Payton will work with him. He'll get that worked out, that kink worked out, which is nice because Bo Nix has no trouble with, remembering the plays, calling what Sean Payton tells him to call, in the huddle. He has no problem doing his checks. Like, that was another thing I noticed about him at training camp Friday. Like, whenever they were, on the, up at the ball at the line of scrimmage, I seen Bo Nix constantly going like this, like, check this linebacker. He's blitzing. And they did blitz a lot on Friday. I'm not going to lie. They really did. They were bringing the heat on Friday at camp. And Bo Nix, like, every time we got up to the line, he always identified the blitzer. He's like, yep, right there. He was calling it out. Like, he has no problem with that, which is good. He just needs to work out the few little kinks with the timing and the, I'm not going to say the accuracy, but like, just getting chemistry down with the receivers pretty much is what he needs to work on. But after that, a lot of people were talking like, well, how did he rebound from that? Most rookie quarterbacks or, quarterbacks that ain't starters, they throw a bad pick, they kind of go into their shell and they're scared to throw the ball downfield. Not Bo Nix. After that, 3 touchdowns. Granted, yes, they were all in the red zone. He had a nice pass at the back pylon to Greg Dulcich. And like I said, he didn't even have to reach out for it. It dropped perfectly right in the breadbasket, right here in Dulcich's hands. The other one, it was a little, flat route to Samaje. He grabbed it, turned, went into the end zone. The last one was probably the one you can't find a video on. It was probably his most impressive touchdown. Javonte goes on a wheel route out the backfield. He had a defender draped on him. Bo Nix plants it perfectly right over the top into freaking Javonte's arms at the back pylon of the end zone. Touchdown. So he rebounded perfectly. Bo Nix did. What were your thoughts on that?
Eddie, like what I like about Bo Nix is his confidence. We talked about his maturity, but he's very confident. All this timing issues, it's gonna come with time. As more reps he gets, he's gonna get better, obviously, because he's still a rookie. So I'm not really concerned about that at all. I'm not really concerned about it. But yeah, I mean, like what you said is like him coming back from a play like this just shows how confident he is. I don't think he's gonna struggle with Sean Payton, getting mad at him or anything, because we know how Sean Payton is. He's not that type. So yeah, man. I mean, hey, it's great. It's great to hear.
And a couple more things I wanted to touch on for the quarterback position is that whenever I was at practice on Friday, like I said, I can't remember yesterday. I know they worked on red zone a lot yesterday, but Friday, it was more of a third down day. They were they were doing a lot of the plays for about third down, and they were blitzing heavily on Friday. Not gonna lie, Bo Nix did take a few sacks Friday, but from my calculations, from what I counted, Jarrett Stidham took more sacks. Zach Wilson definitely took more sacks. Bo Nix kind of almost threw an interception. Like he threw it. It was too high. Like neither the DB or the receiver could catch it. But the DB undercut it, or he was just under the receiver. So, I mean, you could say that could have been an interception. You could say it couldn't have been an interception, whichever. I counted it as it possibly could have been. If it was a real life game, it might have been. And then Zach Wilson threw into double coverage on the sideline to the running back. He's lucky it didn't get picked off because he tried to rocket it in between 2 defenders, which honestly, in my opinion, that was an interception. He just lucky it didn't get picked. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was Bo Nix. Like I said, he was doing all the checks. He was running. He had all the touchdowns and everything, and he looked good, but there was a couple of plays where the defense blitzed in on him, and he had a lane to run, dude. He took off twice, and he probably picked up each play before a defender got near him. He probably picked up about 10 to 15 yards.
Wow.
This was on Friday whenever I was there. Like the blitz came, he found a hole on the right side of the line, and he just took off. And by the time a defender was able to reach him, he was already like 10 to 15 yards downfield both times. So showing that he has poise, He's not going to freak out if he makes a bad throw or an interception. He's not going to worry about that. He can do his checks at the line. He can, he knows the play calls, because that's the one thing I wanted to say too, is that there was one play, Zach Wilson was in there, and they get up to the line, and Sean Payton comes over and blows his whistle. I think Zach got the wrong play call in. He got the verbiage confused or something, because I heard Sean Payton, because he was to the field closest to me. He's like, yeah, that's wrong. He said something along those lines. I couldn't hear everything, but I think Zach Wilson got the play call wrong. Like he got the verbiage mixed up or something. Bo Nix doesn't have that issue. He bounces back from a bad throw. He gets his checks done at the line. He's poised. He can run if he needs to. Honestly, in my opinion, through the first 4 days of camp, the only thing I think Bo Nix really needs to work on is, his timing and chemistry with his receivers. Once he gets that down, this kid's going to be great. I think, honestly, that's my opinion. Like, he needs to continue stacking days, though, in training camp. This next week, just keep, you don't have to have a great day. Like, you don't need to have another 3-touchdown day, but don't make mistakes and just consistently get better. That's all I want to see out of Bo Nix this next week. Just consistently get better, make a couple of plays. You don't have to go all worldly in training camp. Just continue to stack days, and he will be your starter week 1, I believe. Now, moving over to the defensive side of the ball. Defensive line, there wasn't a whole lot. Same with the pass rushers. I didn't really see or hear a whole lot on the pass rushers or the defensive line. I seen John Franklin Myers out there, DJ Jones, Zach Allen, Baron Browning, Jonathan Cooper. Like I said, Friday whenever I was there, Nick Benito was out, but he was back yesterday. But, they did blitz a lot on Friday, and it seemed like the pressure was getting home a lot. Like, they had, corners blitzing. They had safeties blitzing off the edge. They were getting home. And, of course, early in training camp, the defense is always going to have a leg up. But the middle linebacker position, Barton and Singleton and Griffith, Griffith looked good out there Friday, man. He really did. He was all over the field Friday. Now, Saturday, yesterday, I didn't really hear much. But who are some of the linebacker? Who's the main linebacker you want to be starting behind Alex Singleton, in your opinion?
Probably Griffith, from what I'm hearing. Like I said, that's a concern for me. I think we're thin, but from what you're saying, I'm glad Griffith is actually doing something. We definitely need that. That'd be the only weakness on our defense that would be worried about. But like I said, man, I'm glad you're saying he's doing well. So,
well, I mean, he was just all over the field, man. I remember a few plays where I can't remember if it was Zach Wilson or Jarrett Stidham or Bo Nix, but they threw into the flat a couple of times, and Griffith, he was over there in a heartbeat, man. He was like, bam, over there by the running back. And it was nice to see. Like I said, the pass rush, they look, it's still camp, didn't really see a whole lot on them. Even yesterday, didn't hear a lot about the pass rush. But going into the next battle, which on defense is probably the biggest battle on defense, is the cornerback 2 position. You got Damari Mathis, you got Levi Wallace, you got Riley Moss and Chris Abrams-Drain. Honestly, I didn't hear a whole lot on Friday with the corners. I did hear one little thing that Riley Moss had a few snaps and looked good. But yesterday with Levi Wallace picking that ball off, honestly, the cornerback 2 position, for cornerback 2, that's still wide open. That's anyways. I didn't really hear anything on Chris Abrams-Drain. I don't know if they really had him. I'm sure they had him out there working with maybe the 2s or 3s. Damari Mathis, I didn't hear a whole lot on him. But if you had to pick right now, who would you want that cornerback 2 to be? Because McMillan looked good, Patrick Surtain looked good, but I don't know about the cornerback 2 position. I'm still up in the air on it, but who would you like to see win that position?
For me, Eddie, it's probably between Moss and Wallace. Mathis, very disappointing last season. I don't have high hopes for him, but I think it's between those 2. Who are you thinking?
Honestly, I really want Chris Abrams-Drain, the rookie that we drafted this year. I mean, it's probably asking a little much this year because you still need to see that's what training camp and preseason's for. We need to see the development of, Riley Moss. This is Abrams Drain's first year in the NFL. Got to see what he can do. Honestly, if I had to pick today, unless Riley Moss or Abrams Drain, or I'm just going to say it, even though I don't think he's going to probably make the roster, Damari Mathis can show that they should be cornerback too. I think Levi Wallace is going to get that starting role. Maybe he loses it earlier. Maybe, he struggles early in the season and Peyton's like, all right, time to make a switch. Let's put Drain in, or let's put Riley Moss in, kind of like last year they did with, only it was kind of vice versa. They started Damari Mathis. The guy was getting cooked on every freaking play. And then they brought in Fabian Moreau, and he pretty much played the rest of the season. So maybe that'll be kind of a similar thing. Or maybe Levi Wallace plays well. But if they start Levi Wallace and he struggles the first couple of games, I could totally see them going to one of the young guys, Riley Moss or Abrams Drain. I don't think Mathis is going to be on the roster come week 1. Yeah. But that's McMillan, he was flying around out there too. Man, they need to keep him in the nickel. That boy is good in the slot. I love watching him. He's small. I think who was it? I think Cortland Sutton, or was it Josh Reynolds? One of those two was running by McMillan, dude, and they tower him. He's short. I'm 5'10". I think he's about the same height as me. But he makes up for it, dude. Chris Harris Jr. wasn't tall either. I think he was under 6 foot. And look how good of a slot corner he was. And just like McMillan, I'm pretty sure he was a undrafted free agent, just like Chris Harris was. Maybe McMillan could be our next Chris Harris Jr. in the slot.
I sure hope so.
But I'm going with Levi Wallace to start the season there. But moving on to the last group, the safeties. Now, the safeties, I don't know if you heard, I think it was Friday, Brandon Jones tweaked his hammy. He's going to be out for the next couple of weeks. So pretty much he's going to miss this week and next week of training camp. You got PJ Locke out there. Caden Stearns is going to be back this week. They said he came back yesterday. You got JL Skinner or JK Skinner. I forgot what his first name is, but you got Skinner. And then there's another one out there. I forgot there was another safety they had there, but so far you got Caden Stearns, PJ Locke, and Skinner. Brandon Jones will probably be back by the start of the first preseason game, but he's going to be missing probably the majority of training camp. But with that said, who's the starting safeties you want to see this year, Mohammed?
I don't know. That injury, honestly, Eddie, kind of scared me a little bit. I think we're kind of getting thinner at that position. Hopefully come back from that injury, I liked what I saw from Locke last year. PJ Locke, Skinner, for me, it's really like PJ Locke. I would love to see what he's got. He should be leading that group, and maybe Skinner and Skinner. I think Skinner.
And Stearns too.
Yeah, Stearns. Yeah, Stearns. Got him mixed up.
That's the one I want to see. Stearns is I want him to be a starter because, he was injured all last year, but in 2022 when he played, man, he looked good. Yeah. He looked really good. Or was it 2021? One of those 2 years, 2021 or 2022 was the last full year he played. But man, Stearns looked good. He looked like the future at safety. And then he got hurt and he's been out. And, but honestly, I'm right there with you. I know they signed Brandon Jones. And once he comes back from injury, man, you're really going to have a hard time to, figure out what you're going to do at strong safety, free safety. Because, honestly, if you ask me, I think, of course, Brandon Jones is the starter. I think Caden Stearns could be a starter depending on how he looks and how, he plays the season. And I think PJ Locke could be a starter, and, I really want to see these guys. I want to see them out there. But if I had to pick to start the season, I think Brandon Jones will be the, strong safety, I believe. Or I can't remember what position. Strong safety or free? I think it's free safety because the free safety is the one that hangs out in the back all the time. And the strong safety is the one that comes up into the box, which is where PJ Locke thrives. So I would put Brandon Jones at, free safety, and I would put PJ Locke at strong safety, because PJ Locke, they like to bring him up a lot and, have him blitz from the edge. And I'm pretty sure PJ Locke last year, a couple of the blitzes that he did off the edge, man, he got a couple of strip sacks on the quarterback last year. So I'm digging. Like, even though I like Caden Stearns, I think PJ Locke gets that starting role at strong safety,
You
in
know,
my
Eddie,
opinion.
I think we're gonna blitz a lot this season.
I think so too, because Vance Joseph, he likes to do that.
Hmm.
But I'm hoping he doesn't blitz so much it becomes a detriment, to where they're going to
Yeah,
be blitzing, they're going to be leaving all these corners and safeties and one-on-ones, and we're just going to be getting burned. Hopefully, if you get burned a couple of times in the game from blitzing too much, I hope Vance Joseph kind of dials it back a little bit. Like, okay, they're beating us because we keep blitzing so much. Maybe I need to drop more guys into coverage.
just gotta be
So
that balance, right? Gotta be balanced.
yeah, so hopefully it doesn't become a detriment for us. Now we pretty much went through all the Broncos stuff, training camp. I'm excited, and I kind of wanted to touch on this before we move on to the next couple of topics we got. But in your opinion, based on what I told you earlier, Sean Payton said him and the coaches and some of the guys are meeting today to discuss the quarterback position. In your opinion, what do you think that means?
Like when I first heard it, Eddie, I thought it was regarding Zach Wilson being cut, but it could also mean that how they have the rotation, who gets who gets to play with the ones, and like he kept how they keep switching. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe they're gonna wait, but
I think tomorrow the pads come on,
mhm.
and I think Bo Nix is getting reps with the ones. Either him or Jarrett Stidham, one of those two. Zach Wilson got reps with the ones on Saturday, but I thought I heard that Bo Nix will get the ones tomorrow with the first day of pads. I don't know, but that could change. But I'm right there with you. I don't think it's the rotation is what they're discussing. I think they're discussing Zach Wilson. Like, I'm not even going to go as far as they're discussing, oh, yeah, Bo Nix is the guy. Like, they could be, they can have a meeting today and discuss that and be like, yeah, Bo Nix is the guy. We know he's the starter week one, blah, 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 blah. I think they're going to keep this competition going at least through this week. And I think by the end of this week, if Bo Nix keeps progressing up, I think by Sunday of next week, like, they might not say it, but I think Sean Payton's going to have his mind made up. Mm-hmm. Or he might even he might wait a few more weeks. He might wait until that first preseason game and see how Bo Nix actually, plays in a live game. But let me put it this way. If Bo Nix has a steady and he keeps progressing forward this week, I think Sean Payton's going to go I think right now he's probably sitting at about a 40%, maybe 50, closer to 50, 45 to 50%. That Bo Nix is going to be the week one starter. I think if Bo Nix keeps progressing this week and shows that he's getting better, I think that jumps up to probably about 65 to 70%. That he's in the back of his mind, he's like, yeah, Bo Nix is most likely going to be the starter, and he's probably going to go through the preseason games and give him that time. But I think Zach Wilson is done. Like I think that's what that meeting's about. I think he's just like, yeah, it's down to Jarrett Stidham and Bo Nix. Like, Zach Wilson hasn't shown any progression. He hasn't shown that he's gotten better at all throughout training camp, OTAs, or mandatory minicamp. He's actually the same. He hasn't got any better. So, but with that said, I want to move on to the next couple of topics before we get out of here tonight. The first topic, this ain't really Broncos related, but I saw a video earlier of JJ McCarthy with the Vikings. He threw a horrible interception. Like, it was over the middle on the right side of the field on the right hash. It was like there was two defenders right there. He threw it into double coverage, and the guy picked it off for a pick six. And as I was going through the comments, people were like, oh, see, this is why we didn't take Bo Nix. This is, pretty much bashing the Broncos for taking Nix. Because he did throw a pick, but at the same time, he threw 4 interceptions. But the pick was at the end of the practice yesterday. But J.J. McCarthy threw 4 touchdowns yesterday. And it was just funny seeing people's reaction. Like, me personally, I was like, I hope J.J. McCarthy does well. Like, I love watching rookie quarterbacks. Unless they play for the Raiders, the Chiefs, or the Chargers, I hope their downfall happens. I hope they are not good. But any other team. I'm just like, I like watching the rookies play. Uh, but what's your thoughts? Like knowing that Bo Nix had 3 touchdowns after his bad interception yesterday, and JJ McCarthy had 1 bad interception at the end of camp, but had 4 TDs during. What's your thoughts on that?
Honestly, Eddie, like with him, just because how everybody was saying the Broncos were gonna get him and stuff, I don't really care for him. To be honest, I don't really think he's worth where they picked him. Maybe Sean Payton has something to do with that, just making them think that that's who we're going with and stuff. But I think he's going to be throwing a lot of interceptions during the season. It's gonna take him a while, to get used to the NFL. He doesn't have as much experience as Bo Nix did, so um, I honestly don't like. I guess they're going to start him this coming season, but he's going to struggle. That's what I believe.
I don't know if they're going to start him because a lot of reports earlier in the season say that they were going to start Sam Darnold. Like, I think they're going to give him time, but even Sam Darnold, like JJ might win it by default because there was more video of Sam Darnold out there, man. He did not look good. He had a couple of decent passes, but Sam Darnold did not look good. JJ looked better. And honestly, I hope, he does start the season, JJ. Not because I'm wanting the Vikings to fail, because honestly, I can care less. I just like watching the young rookie quarterbacks play.
Okay.
It's like even like Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. Penix probably ain't going to start because Kirk Cousins, they said, was medically cleared yesterday to play. I just like watching the rookie quarterbacks. Like I said, as long as they're not on like the Raiders, the Chiefs, or the Chargers, because if they are, I'm going to be rooting for their downfall because I don't want them to be good if they're on a division rival. But like, since those guys, they're in a different division or a different conference, I'm like, I hope they do well. It makes the NFL more fun for me to watch, So, but honestly, I can care less what they say. I was just, I just, like I said, I hope all rookie quarterbacks do well. And it just seems like, to me, Viking fans saying that just seems like they feel like they might have made the wrong choice in picking JJ over Bo Nix. Like the ones that are saying, "Oh yeah, look at this, we got JJ, who looks better than Bo Nix, and Bo Nix is garbage, and blah blah blah. He made a horrible interception." What are you trying to say? You want Bo Nix? Like, I don't get it. Like, why do you care if our quarterback's good or not? We're not in the same division. Hell, we're not even in the same conference. Um, just doesn't make any sense to me. But moving on to the last topic. Now, this one to me made me laugh. I mean, I don't wish injury upon anyone, but it was just mostly the comments. So I think it was either Thursday or maybe Friday. I'm not sure which. The day that the Steelers were supposed to start training camp. Russell Wilson wakes up. He has his hammy's hurt. Or not his hammy, I'm sorry, his calf. He wakes up with a sore calf or injured calf, whatever. So Justin Fields has been getting first team reps with the Steelers over the last 3 days. And based on the reports I'm seeing and from the fans, one, Justin Fields looks good. And two, most of the Steeler fans want Justin Fields. They don't want Russell Wilson. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm not really surprised, Eddie. I mean, he's younger, very talented. I think he's kind of perfect as far as the way he plays with the Steelers. They like running the ball. They have good defense. That formula really works for them. So I'm not really surprised. Like looking at Russell Wilson after he came to the Broncos and stuff, anybody would probably lean towards playing the kid. I mean, I would. I'm not surprised.
No, it was just crazy to me. And like one of the first comments I saw after I woke up and I saw that Russell Wilson had a hurt calf, it was like one of the Steeler fans was like, "Oh God, here it goes! Just start freaking Fields." He's like, "So it starts." And me being a Broncos fan and me just being the kind of person I am, I'm like, the Seahawk fans and Bronco fans tried to tell you guys. I mean, he hasn't really thrown a pass in the Steelers uniform, but it's not so much the injury. It's just like, you're better off going with Justin Fields. Like, I feel like we talked about this earlier in the offseason with their scheduling. Like the last 9 games of their schedule are brutal. They got the Ravens twice, they got the Browns twice, the Ravens, Browns, and Bengals they have twice. And I'm pretty sure they got the Eagles and Chiefs at the end of the year too. Like they have to start off hot. And honestly, I was actually talking to some Steeler fans earlier today. They said they want Justin Fields for the simple fact that yes, they understand he's a younger version of Russell Wilson, but the fact is he's tall enough, he can make throws over the field, they said, which I started chuckling at that because I was like, yeah, I know the pain. Trust me.
Yeah.
And then they're also like he's younger, he still has his mobility, he still has his athleticism. He can get out and run. Russell Wilson can't run out defensive linemen anymore. So they're like, we want Justin Fields to start for the simple fact that he can throw over the middle, he can see over the middle, and if he needs to run, he can actually get away from defensive linemen. It gave me a chuckle. Like I was seriously laughing. I mean, I kind of feel bad for these Steeler fans because if Russ starts, I think they already know that it's not going to be pretty. It really isn't. So I pretty much just told him, like, man, just hope and pray that Justin Fields starts. That's all I can tell you. But what would you say to a Steelers fan if they told you that?
I mean, I like we all know that even if Russ does start, he's not gonna stay the starter. I don't think. I mean, somewhere down the line, maybe halfway through the season, if not earlier than that, Justin Fields is gonna start. So you might as well just start Justin Fields. And with Russ, that injury is just very convenient. I'm not saying he's making it up, but it's very convenient. I just want him to play us week 2, and then it doesn't matter. Just
Well,
wait.
that's my thing. I want him to play week 2 too. Like I want to see us beat the crap out of Russell Wilson, and for Sean Payton to prove, like, hey, I wasn't the problem last year. It was Russ. So that way, that whole narrative, because the media is saying, oh, I still hear the media saying, oh, Sean Payton did Russell Wilson dirty. He did wrong. The Broncos did wrong by Russ. I want Russ to play in that game so the Broncos can prove, like, hey, Sean wasn't the problem. The Broncos weren't the problem. It was Russ. That way, that whole narrative can be squashed. That's what I want. And also, honestly, going back to what you said about, Justin Fields probably going to be starting. Russell Wilson's not going to play the entire year. I agree with that. But honestly, I think at the first sign of trouble, like they're not paying Russ anything. They're paying him $1.2 million. I think the first time Russ cost them a game, which I don't think is going to be very, I don't think it'll be very, very soon. Like week 1, week 2, Russ cost them a game from like a bad INT or running around from out of a clean pocket and takes a bad sack or loses the football from a strip sack or a strip fumble, whatever. He's benched. He's done. Like the Steelers, if Mike Tomlin is like, I mean, maybe this is just a media narrative, but I think Mike Tomlin does think about that. Like, hey, my plus 500 season is in serious jeopardy this year. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. The only way we're going to be able to keep it above 500 is we have to start hot early. We have to beat the Falcons week 1. We got to beat the Broncos week 2. I can't remember who they play week 3, but they got to start off hot because that ending season schedule is going to be brutal for them. And I think Mike Tomlin sees that if Russell Wilson cost him at least just one game, he's going to pull the plug and put Justin Fields in. Like he can't afford not to. I mean, it's just, I mean, I'm glad I'm not a Steelers fan. Like, I read that story the other day about his calf injury after he woke up, and I'm just like, I'm so glad that's not us and that's not our problem to deal with anymore. We got our bright, future at quarterback in Bo Nix. He's looking good in camp. I'm happy. So, but anyway, that's it for us tonight, guys. Thank you for joining in and watching us tonight. And Muhammad, you got any other thoughts you want to get out there before we get out of here tonight?
Just very excited about the Broncos. I'm excited about the offense. Everything I'm hearing is really positive. I think it's a good formula for success as far as the offense. We are going to surprise a lot of teams, and then if we do make the playoffs, and I think it's a very good chance that we do, I don't think teams would want to play us. as far as how we run the ball, the defense, yeah.
And our producer came in during the stream. He said, "Keep him for years to come for Knicks." I assuming he's talking about Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
I agree. Like it'd be nice, but I just don't know if they're going to do that with all the wide receiver depth they have. You know, they signed Reynolds to a couple of year deal. I mean, like I said, Sutton's here for another 2 years unless they want to trade him next offseason. If they can't, if they don't want to keep him long term and give him a big contract, they might trade him. So I don't know. But anyway, guys, that'll be doing it for us tonight. This has been Eddie Muhammad with Colorado Sports Connection. Muhammad, great to have you back, man. We can't wait to see you again next week. And hopefully this whole week of training camp, Bo Nix just balls out and has a week.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, guys. Well, we'll talk to you guys later. We'll see y'all next Sunday. Peace.